Hello, everyone. It's 10 after the hour at Michigan time, so let's start our program. Thank you so much for braving the elements to join us for today's conversation with Detroit artist Tyree Guyton. We're truly happy to have you with us here today. I'm Brad Taylor. I'm the Associate Director of the Museum Studies Program here at the University of Michigan. The Museum Studies Program is happy to be your sponsor for this afternoon's conversation with Tyree Guyton. Our panel today is comprised of individuals who many of you already know. Renowned artist Tyree Guyton, Heidelberg Project Executive Director Janine Whitfield, and U of M Professor of Social Work and Professor at the Penny W. Stamp School of Art and Design, Larry Gant. Before we begin today's conversation, allow me a few minutes to introduce them further to you. Tyree Guyton, of course, is the creator of the Heidelberg Project, which is now approaching its 30th anniversary. Designed, in Tyree's words, to provide medicine for the souls of the people of Detroit, the project has served as a cultural anchor which has attracted visitors from around the world and around the corner, sparked a dialogue between thousands, engaged us visually, intellectually, and emotionally, and has advanced important social change. While many associate Tyree almost exclusively with the Heidelberg Project, it's important to know that he has a career as an artist beyond his work on the street. His work has been exhibited publicly since 1986 in solo and group exhibitions, both around Detroit and around the world. His art is collected by important museums, private collectors, and holds a place in important corporate collections. Mr. Guyton is the recipient of over 30 awards and fellowships over the course of his career, including an honorary doctorate from his alma mater, the College for Creative Studies in Detroit. Tyree would be just as pleased for me to tell you that he's also the de facto provider of art education at the Ralph Bunche Elementary School in Detroit, a neighborhood school within a short walk of the Heidelberg Project. The scope of his artistic reach extends from this neighborhood school to Australia, South America, Europe, and many points in between. If Tyree Guyton is the artistic heart at the center of the Heidelberg Project, Janine Whitfield keeps that heart beating strongly through her work as executive director of the Heidelberg Project. Coming from a career in the banking industry, Janine famously made a wrong turn down a polka-dotted street in 1993 and asked the paint-spattered man who would turn out to be Tyree Guyton, "What is all this?" So began Janine's tenure with the Heidelberg Project. In addition to providing direction to the project's administrative staff and volunteers, Janine writes grants, secures funding, acquires and restores property, leads education and outreach efforts, secures partnerships with other cultural organizations, and provides overall administrative leadership to the third most visited cultural attraction in Detroit. Janine also plays a major role in the continued effort to codify the philosophy that guides the project's artistic and social change goals, which has become known as Heidelbergology. Larry Gant is University of Michigan professor in the School of Social Work and also at the Penny W. Stamp School of Art and Design. Larry's research focuses on neighborhood-based responses to health disparities and social economic challenges in post-industrial cities in the U.S. and urban metropolitan areas in Europe, sub-Saharan Africa, and China. Another strand of research includes the use of visual and performance arts-based settlement house programs to create indigenous creative classes of residents for community capacity development. But for purposes of today's talk, Professor Gant has known Tyree Guyton for over 30 years and has followed the Heidelberg Project since its inception. He has a deep and nuanced understanding of the project, and we're grateful to him for offering to lead today's conversation. Before we get started, allow me to address the question of why a museum studies program would be hosting an event concerning an outdoor contemporary art installation. Not only is it because of the artistic and economic significance of the site, it's because the Heidelberg project harkens back to a model for an innovative, community-oriented museum type that was first proposed by library reformer turned museum director John Cotton Dana over 100 years ago. With a public library orientation that made him unique among museum directors of his era, Dana decried the collections-focused museums he saw across the river in New York City, which catered to a rarefied segment of the population. Dana's Newark, New Jersey museum pioneered a new kind of museum, one that took as its mission an orientation to the local community. In Dana's new institution, the needs of the community came first. Exhibitions were planned around the needs of local populations. Reproductions far outnumbered original objects so they could be checked out to residents who wanted art in their own homes. The industrial design of local workers was put on display to build civic pride in the community, and private collections of stamps, coins, and handicraft from community members became the basis for many exhibits in the Newark Museum. Public museums that built on Dana's precedent provided space to teach job training skills, literacy, provide after-school programs, child daycare, and immunization clinics. This is in museums. Dana's Newark Museum was well received and had great impact on public museums throughout the Midwest, where the integration of museums into the local community was taken as a given. It is within this framework that the Heidelberg project can be considered, a modern-day iteration of John Cotton Dana's Community Museum, one that has both its basis in and is dedicated to a local population and their needs. In the case of the Heidelberg project, we see an institution with roots in the past, which remains uniquely its own and finds new ways of engaging the community socially. And in a time in which the relative value of cultural institutions needs to constantly be affirmed, the Heidelberg project provides a compelling example for other museums to consider. So with that said, we're just about ready to begin. First of all, what I'd like you to know is that you'll notice video equipment around the room to capture today's session. It will eventually be deployed as a podcast on the Museum Studies Program's website, and it will be posted to YouTube. So if you can't be here for the whole thing, or you know somebody who's missing, will show up on YouTube in a short amount of time. To help in the process of recording, when we get to the Q&A session that will follow the formal program, please wait to be handed a microphone before asking your question. Even if the excellent acoustics in this room suggest that you don't need the microphone for purposes of our taping, we need to have you wait for the microphone before speaking in order to help the recording efforts. We'll have 2 students on either side of the floor who will be able to get a microphone to you. Second, please join us for a reception in the Rackham Assembly Hall immediately following today's presentation. We'll have cookies and something to drink, and you'll have an opportunity to meet our discussants personally and talk to them further. The Assembly Hall is at the top of the center stairway here. You can't miss it. And finally, for those of you interested in Tyree Guyton's work, I'm happy to announce 2 separate exhibitions of his art scheduled for the University of Michigan campus this year. One exhibit at the University of Michigan Museum of Art, scheduled to open this summer, and another exhibit scheduled for the Department of African American Studies Gallery on the main floor of Haven Hall, scheduled to open later in the year. There will be events associated with both of these exhibits. We'll hope to see you with those. In spite of the arson fires that will be the subject of our talk today, 2015 would indeed seem to be a very busy and very positive year for Tyree Guyton. We'll begin today with a short film clip in order to set the stage for today's conversation.
Nothing lasts forever. Change is inevitable. Well, this place here, the Heidelberg Project, is an outdoor, radical, whimsical art environment. It's my way of asking some very important questions about what is art today.
There's 195 countries in the world. 140 have visited the Heidelberg Project just by way of signatures in our guest book. So then a pride starts to build in people. And now you have people who formerly didn't understand Heidelberg who now are sitting on their porches greeting and meeting people from all over the world.
I've met people from all over the world. I finally met somebody from Poland. I said, I couldn't believe it. I met somebody from Poland about a month and a half ago, you know. And I guess we get pretty close to a million people here a year, imagine.
What's beautiful about Heidelberg is that we were able to brag that in the 27 years that we've been here, there have been no serious reported crimes. And then lo and behold, someone decided to strike a match. And one fire turned into 9 over a period of 11 months. Heidelberg was literally on fire. So we lost 6 prominent art installations that Tyree had created over the years. A lot of time, a lot of energy burned in seconds.
It was painful at first, but I had to get over that, and I had to go deep down into my subconscious and to realize that it was time for change and that life was changing me and it was getting me ready for something greater.
What has happened as a result of the fires is, of course, now we have a state-of-the-art security system on site, but we were able to introduce our community to green technology because now there are 6 solar lights installed within the Heidelberg Project community, which means that now the community has more lights.
I've seen them before, but not in my neighborhood. And I think they're fantastic.
Number one, they're very beautiful to see them here in an area that is faced with all kind of challenges. No, they didn't burn the product down to the ground. The product is still here, and it's better now than before. Repetition, it's everything. Life itself has a way of repeating itself over and over, round and around. Everything is moving, round and around and around. Nothing lasts forever. Change is inevitable.
All right, so first of all, thanks guys, welcome to the house here.
Thank you.
Oh, it's not a problem, not a problem. Well, even though, and we had a good discussion. Hi folks, you all out here. Okay, I love you guys first of all, I'm focusing on them, all right? So do not be upset with that, okay? This is a discussion, and so we have good discussions. So you should really think about getting your checks out and write, because this is a really cool opportunity. This is not a lecture 2, that's boring. Okay, and we do that all the time. This is a discussion with, okay? And that is very rare to have a discussion. Just, you know, we're folks, we're talking, but we talk about art and things like that. That's what's gonna roll out here. Do you know how friggin' rare that is? To be able to have you observe, kind of in a fishbowl, a really cool discussion with, you know, world-class artists and world-class administrators here, and we're talking, okay? So this is not going to be a boring lecture which you can kind of like doodle to or write to or kind of, you know, tweet and say, OMG, I'm really here, I don't believe this, okay? No, this is going to be very, very different because we're going to pretend as if you don't exist. We're going to have a discussion with us. Now, you do, and you're nice, and you've got titles, and you've got classes. We know all of that. Much love to you, okay? But in this privileged space at the University of Michigan, we're still going to pretend that you all don't exist, just for a little bit. These are the most important people in the room right now. You're really important, but this is why we're here, you know? And you're not even here to see me. A couple of students are, maybe. But most of you are here to see and to listen to, you know, innovative and creative world-class artists. I like pre-artists. I was going to go with the free artist piece. That's not a bad new word to make up a little bit here. So we're gonna talk. Okay, we're gonna have discussion. All right, and we probably will have time for a couple of questions. But honestly, can we talk here? Honestly, you want to have a discussion with artists and with Janine. You want to talk. You know, not here to here, but kind of like here to here. Yeah. That's what I'm kind of thinking too. So after we're done, when we go across the way to the reception area, that's time for grazing, talking, informally, conversation. You want to have conversation, okay? And so to the extent possible, because I'll be kind of gone, I gotta take my family out and feed them, because I have ignored them the past week being very, very busy here. But the most important people are going to be here for some dialogue and discussion, real time, real chat, real people. And I think that's also really, really attractive to the majority of you too, yeah? So that's how, we're gonna go that way, all right? So love and kisses, we're gonna talk here, okay? This is real interesting, because we had a discussion, you know, was it yesterday that we were talking?
2 days ago.
2 days ago that we were talking about this?
2 days ago.
Okay, all right, and so, yeah. What was really interesting was that when we were talking about, you know, the most recent spate of fires, okay? And the transformation, and some of this we saw, and the folks saw in the clip up there as well too. But you know, Janine, you came up with a real interesting observation, just to say, you know what, people think that this is the first time that the Heidelberg project has been hit with adversity. But you know, you also said, but you know what? And you kind of, you remember what you said basically in terms of since the beginning?
Sure.
Okay.
What happened, I'm just, you know, in our 29-year history now, we had a partial demolition of the Heidelberg project in 91.
Right.
Another partial demolition of the Heidelberg project in 1999. And then, of course, in 2013 and 14, we had a demolition by fires.
Right.
But each time the Heidelberg project was partially destroyed, it came back stronger. So, I mean, in my mind, what Tyree has done is he's just created a new canvas or a new platform each time on a canvas. So I think that's phenomenal. And I like other people to understand that when you come down to see the Heidelberg project today, most people say, where were the fires? That's interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's real interesting. I think they can't see it then, right? So, okay, Tyree, you know, with the situations that Jean talked about, I mean, what was your position? What was your thinking then? Was it about growth and development, canvas, to the platform? What were you thinking?
I'm going to read something.
Cool.
This is coming from Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson says, and I quote, "When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on."
That was Thomas Jefferson?
Thomas Jefferson.
I thought that was electrifying mojo, but this is Thomas. I did. Thomas Jefferson said that?
Absolutely.
It sounds like something that somebody was talking about first.
Thank you, Janine.
Got it.
But also I want to add this too, Larry. When I was living in Switzerland, I dreamt that the Heidelberg project was on fire.
When were you in Switzerland?
2012,
Before the fires.
before the fires. And I had this dream that the Heidelberg project was on fire. I believe, looking at it from a philosophical point of view, life was getting me ready for something greater. I believe that. If I sat here today, talking to you, and also share that with these folks out here in the audience.
But you know, when we were talking a couple of days ago, as we were talking about the transformation, you know, that you kind of foreshadowed, you were also dealing with the reality that, you know, there were still fires, right? And that people were in fear of their lives, and that what was going on in the neighborhood, it wasn't really transformative as much as it was terrifying and scary in some kinds of ways. So it wasn't just that, you know, you kind of saw it from your artist's frame. This is creation, this is the phoenix rising, this is new life, this is inextinguishable.
But life in itself is scary.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
We don't know.
So life is scary.
Life is scary.
Uh-huh.
And you have to learn. And I believe, as I said here today, you can't stop. It has a way of getting you ready for something greater and bigger. That's what I believe.
And Heidelberg has always been a roller coaster. There has never, ever been a moment of rest. In the 29 years of the Heidelberg project, either we were dealing with unrest with the city of Detroit and demolitions, or we were dealing with surviving and just trying to keep the Heidelberg project going, trying to convince people to see what we were seeing. The people coming from all over the world, people who were snatching their little bit of creativity from what Tyree had done and taking it back to their own community. That's profound to me.
You know, the other thing that was kind of profound, and I was kind of looking at you when Bradley was talking about, you know, the fact and the reality, the real clear fact and the reality, that the Heidelberg Project is the third most visited, you know, area,
Cultural destination.
cultural
in Detroit.
destination in the city of Detroit.
Right.
And we were trying to talk about, we were talking a couple of days ago about, all right, you know, doesn't the city get this? Or what about this does the city, and we're talking about there maybe the leadership, you know, and it hasn't just been the current mayor, it's also Coleman Alexander Young Jr., you know, one of my heroes, but none of the administrators really gave, did they? Did any of the administrators give Heidelberg love, or was it basically it's an eyesore and it needs to be kind of trashed? Did anybody ever get it?
Well, that's part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do something today in today's world, you're going to have to pay a price,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of it. I think that my job as an artist is to educate the world. And I want to also say this, and you and I talked about this there. I think there are times that we want people to get it when we want to get it, when we wanted to get it, or we want people to get it the way that we think they should get it. What time is it? All things in time. That's why I put that clock there to talk about the importance of time.
You brought the clock.
And so the city, so talking and speaking about the city did what they needed to do. And at the same time, I'm doing what I need to do.
Didn't that drive you crazy, though? I mean, they didn't even have a discussion with you. They just came in and they bulldozed, okay? And I kind of, we were at the courthouse, right? You know, and you know, outside of the courthouse, when you first got your, you know, the ticket for littering with the shit on the street, you remember that? Were you honestly thinking about, well, there's a point in time when the folks will get it? Were you saying, man, these guys are just harassing me again? You know, I'm trying to build the city up, and all they can do is give me a ticket?
That's part of the process. John F. Kennedy said this. He said, it's not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? Once again, I'm going to go back. You pay a price. That was part of it.
Yeah,
that was part of
but
getting
it wasn't fun. That shit was not fun.
Wait,
It was not fun.
I didn't see any happy faces.
It wasn't fun.
Okay. And you were stressed, man. I mean,
At that time, yes.
Yeah.
I was young in my way of thinking, and I was young in age, but then you grow and you realize, and so now I can sit here, I can look back at it and say to you, it was part of it. It was part of getting me ready. Something that Ronald Reagan said, he said, government is not a solution to our problems. Government is the problem.
Now that's the truth. Oh, yeah.
And Ronald Reagan said that.
Well,
ah, yes. Ah, yes.
but the concept goes back to people who, you know, what the way the Heidelberg Project has grown us. You know, I was in my cute 30s when I, you know, first got involved with
You're still
Heidelberg.
cute, honey.
Thank you, baby. But I was just going to say that, you know, my gosh, with the things that we went through,
Right.
I think, and I can attest to this for Tyree, it grew us. And so he can come to a point now where he can say, you know, that's all part of the process. It can come to a point now where we can say, okay, we know this negativity is playing a big part in what we're doing, but how we come through it is what's most important. So,
Wouldn't you say, Janine, that you need that?
yeah, I mean, that's what,
You know, the balance, you
The
know,
resistance.
good and bad, and so you need that. But I think that the challenge is to learn how to juggle it.
Existing kind of
Find the balance.
intentions, right?
Right.
Both the good and the bad, but basically saying, okay, you have to learn, you have to fight, but you also have to learn at the same time
how to fight,
how to fight.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's
how to
important.
stand while, you know, we're 29 years into this now, my goodness.
And I'm 26.
I know. I mean, but to be in this for the length of time that we have, I guarantee you most people would have given up. If there had not been something that rooted us and kept us, you know, going, and that part had to do with having each other to bounce things off of, knowing what his intention was, knowing what my intention had come to be. How are we going to keep this thing going? And we had to rely on something bigger than us. That's right.
And so, because I know there must have been times when I looked at each other and said, do we need to keep doing this? Are we done yet?
It was like this, when the phone rang for a fire, my heart just dropped. Tyree went to every site. I couldn't go. I never saw a site on fire. And he went, and you tell him, you went, you watched, you had your own grieving moments. It was hard.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And you need that. You need that. You know, no pain, no gain. And so you need that. You know, you need the balance. Life has a way of making you. It has a way of getting you ready. The challenge is, can you hang in there? And I want to say this, Larry. I've been hanging in there, but also I want to say this because I just looked up there and I noticed I've had a great team of people, a great team of folks, and I saw some of the Heidelberg staff that came in here. Those folks.
Oh, represent.
That's
Shout out.
right. That's right. Heidelberg family. Those folks. And also, I want to mention too, I just looked up there, and I also want to mention the Heidelberg attorney, that guy right there.
I think Dan can probably say Heidelberg changed his life. It's changed a lot of lives. Isn't that true, Dan?
That's very true.
Oh, absolutely. So it's this magical little thing that looks like it's nothing, but it's so powerful.
You know, I want to say this. You know, my grandfather, Grandpa Samaki, he said something to me, and I must say this here. He said he could see the wind blow. What do I mean by that? You have to be able to see through the chaos and see the magic. And that's what I was able to do when I went down there to every single one of those fires. I was able to see the magic.
How do you see the magic when other folks can see smoke and ruins and fire engines and water? I mean, how do you see the magic?
Well, I believe every single one of us are put here for a divine purpose. This is my purpose. So knowing that, I'm able to see the magic. 2 + 2 = 8.
Okay, so you have to break that down.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I think I get it, and I'm scared because I might get it. Okay, that's what really is terrifying to me. But 2 + 2 is 8, = 8.
Plato said that time is a moving image of reality. You have to create your reality. 2 + 2 = 8. You have to create your reality. The world is not going to do that for you. You have to do it. And that's what I've been able to do, you know, since the fires. I've been creating a new reality. Heidelberg rising from the ashes.
How does that art aspect let you see and create that new reality? I have a couple of I was thinking about that as soon as you said that in terms of, so is it the art that transforms you? Is it the Tyree that transforms you? Is it the Tyree as art? Is it the community as art? You know, where does the transformation come from? Where does this bring from?
Well, it's something that's really, it comes from here. It comes from the soul. It's in here. And so what's in here, I've learned to listen. I've learned to listen to myself. I was talking with a reporter the other day, and I was sharing with this reporter that I hear it. And she wanted to know, well, what do you hear? I hear me. I trust me. And that's in me. It's the medicine that helps you to open up here, this mind, the third eye of consciousness, where you are able to see it, and you're able to see what's possible. Going back to what I said earlier, 2 + 2 = 8. What time is it?
Does anything scare you about Heidelberg right now?
Absolutely.
What scares you about Heidelberg?
I don't know. I don't know what's next.
You don't know what's next. So it's that kind of unknown that's frightening.
But I like it.
I have to just jump in.
I know you do.
It's 29 years of the unknown, to be sure. So when we have tried with our staff to build programs to get some kind of, you know, stable, solid footing for the Heidelberg Project, it surprises us. And I've often said that the Heidelberg Project is this kind of energy that you kind of learn how to manage, but it's definitely guiding itself. I mean, we didn't plan for fires. We were on our way to all kinds of great things, and lo and behold,
Still are.
I know. I mean, it just keeps boosting you higher and higher, and it's testing everything we have. I know I talk about it like a thing, but that's what it's like to me now. Sometimes a baby I wish would grow the fuck up. I'm sorry. But I gotta give it to you straight the way I feel it.
What are you drinking, honey?
You know,
Wow.
Yeah, right.
22 years of my life and 29 years of Tyree's life, and it has gone through lots of changes.
Laura, I want to go back. I want to piggyback. I want to add something a little bit more. Gauguin. He said, I shut my eyes in order to see. That's right. You close your eyes and you can see it.
You shut your eyes so you can see.
That's right.
What do you see?
Everything. Everything.
When you open your eyes, what happens?
Well, when I open my eyes up, I know I can do it. Because I was able to see it.
How do you communicate these real kind of interesting, complicated issues to funders and to folks in the community? Because on the one hand, I get you, or if I don't get you right now, I will in a little bit. I understand that, but sometimes you need here and now responses from funders. How do you communicate that? And then also, so you got the funders, right? But then you also have the community residents, who are probably not at the mountaintop or where you are. How does that kind of get communicated? It's at different levels. I mean, does Heidelberg kind of reach folks at different levels? And then how do you communicate that?
But that's why you need a team.
Yep.
And you sent somebody out there like Janine. And all those pretty folks up there that you saw. Yeah.
So to be honest, you can tell the people that you don't deal with that.
I don't.
And that is why he's free to continue to create, because he doesn't deal with that side of it. And I think that's a very powerful statement, because people ask artists to be everything. Learn how to market yourself. Do this, do that. I don't think it's fair, because our artists are creative giants. I mean, they dream and they help us to grow. But to answer the question, we have a client, a neighbor on Heidelberg Street whose whole attitude has changed. And she was an important neighbor because she appeared on Oprah with Tyree in '91, horribly against the Heidelberg project.
Was she?
Yes, and then when Tyree went to Switzerland, she found out how to make the Heidelberg project work for her.
Really?
So she transformed her home into a work of art. And she invited people to sign her house because she said she needed to, repaint her home. And then she started selling hot chocolate. I mean, and when I called Tyree in Switzerland and told him what was happening, he's like, that's what we want. It took 25 years to transform this woman, but my goodness, now her imagination is at work. And that's powerful. As for the funders and the people we have to retell our story now. I'm going to say this because I think it's important. We're in a position where we have to lay off staff now because people think because of the fires, we are no more. But it's just a new canvas. And that's what people need to understand. Each time it's a new canvas. And we will be there. We've got $7,000 lights in that community now, so we will be there, rebuilding and continuing on. It's a powerful, powerful project, a powerful vision that Tyree has that is really, to me, a lot of times ahead of him.
Have you heard that an awful lot, that potential funders, even folks who are on the street, have said basically, God, I thought you guys were gone. I thought the fires, because I haven't heard anything from you all. Do you get that when people are surprised that Heidelberg is still around?
Not from funders, because we keep them informed.
You keep them informed.
But we have to convince them
that
we are still moving and doing our thing and making things happen. I mean, if anything, the traffic increased.
It did.
My gosh, we got more people to control now.
Oh, you kidding?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. Why are they coming now?
Curiosity? Want to see how Tyree's doing? What do you think?
I think it's all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of that.
And they are coming from around the world. It's no joke to see 10 countries on Heidelberg Street on one day.
Because that's the way that it used to be about 10 or so years ago when, you had these buses coming. I remember when there used to be bus loads, like almost 24/7.
That never stopped.
Still continued.
It never stopped, even with the fires.
Larry, it's my way of being part of the solution. And so, in creating the Heidelberg project, and I said earlier, it's a medicine. It's my way of connecting people, bringing people. I don't think we should live in a world where we are afraid of people, where we are living, folks are living over here, and folks are living over here, and people are afraid. And so I saw the need to bring people from around the world there. When I was a kid, it was a diverse neighborhood. And I saw the importance of recreating that. I believe, as I sit here today, folks, I believe it's only one race. That's the human race. We are all in this together.
But it's cool, don't get me wrong, it's cool with a clap. But in practice, it just don't exist.
Word.
That's just the way it is. And I mean, and I think that Heidelberg is the realest place I think one of our board members called it a sacred battleground that has taken all the scars of Detroit.
What? A
and
sacred battleground?
Yes, and it provides that platform that people can discuss real issues. They can be real on Heidelberg Street. It's amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody's clapping because they know that's true. It's amazing.
A sacred battlefield.
Yes, yes.
You know, we were talking a couple of days ago, and I think, Janine, you had stepped out of the room for a little bit to take a phone call to talk with somebody, and you were telling me this real interesting story that's been, I think, that was picked up by the Metro Times.
Yes.
And when you told me that, I was just blown away, because they kind of got into, on the one hand, there's Heidelberg. On the other hand, there are still some hardcore realities.
Absolutely.
Okay, but the story that you told is just one of those words that, you gotta be kidding. That did not happen. But, you know, Brad talked a little bit about Heidelbergology. Well, that's me there, okay? You talked a little bit about it again, but this is an interesting example. I think, Janine, you were kind of talking about it too, in terms of it being one of the realest places in the city, where you had these kind of really, really direct discussions that it would probably be hard to have in other places. But, you know, why don't you kind of remind us about that story that you told, in terms of, you know, the guy who came in from out of town, who did the phone call, you came down, and you do it a lot better than I did, way better than I did.
We had a visitor who came over, and he brought some people with him for the first time, and someone broke into his vehicle while he was there visiting the Heidelberg project. And I received a phone call, and so I told Stacy that I was going to come down, and so I came down, and this guy was really excited or happy that I came. Long story short, he called the Metro Times. The Metro Times wrote an article.
Yeah, maybe, can you guys tell us what the name of that article was? Do you remember? The Metro Times article where the guy said, if you're going to get your car broken into, this, I don't remember exactly.
The best part of having your car broken into in Detroit is the people that help you.
Thank you.
The best part of getting your car broken into in Detroit is the people that help you.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to explain that, sorry.
So the Metro Times,
Yeah.
the guy left a message because he was so adamant. He wanted the Metro Times to know about his experience in Detroit getting his car broken into on Heidelberg project. And they couldn't believe what he had to say, so they wrote the story.
Okay.
And basically his whole, you know, they were all dressed up going to 3 different places, and they came to Heidelberg.
Right.
And he said the help that he received, the care that he received, just completely washed what they had experienced away. I mean, in other words, they just, of course they were upset, but he said he was dumb because he left his stuff on the front seat, you know. So he began to recapitulate in his mind what he did. And then they carried on with their tour in Detroit.
Larry, and also the mere fact that I came down, and I said to him, I said, you can't let this stop you. He said, this is the reason why I moved away from Detroit. And I said, you got to see beyond that. And I said, I want you to come back. And Katie was there, and Katie had some folks that was there. She was conducting a tour. And the folks that was there, that was part of the tour, also helped to clean the vehicle out. And I went over, and the staff assisted this guy, gave him tape to fix his window and so forth. And I told him that if you stop coming, then they have won. You have to look beyond that and realize that you have the power and not give it to them. He also mentioned to me that he was dealing with cancer. And prior to coming down a week ago, someone had he had an accident in his vehicle, and he had a rental car. But I guess the point that I want to make here, I think what's going to help us and what's going to save us is love. Because how do we fix the world? Love is the only medicine that is able to transform your enemy into a friend. I believe that. And that's what I was sharing with that gentleman. You got to kick in, and you got to let your love come out, and you got to get beyond that. And he called it Metro Times.
Well, you know, you mentioned that, you know, there were some other things that he did after his discussion, because, I mean, he was not a happy camper.
No.
When you came in and talked with him, so this wasn't an easy street. I mean, he was hot. And, I mean, you had the discussion, but then he also did some other things after you had the discussion, as you were telling me.
Yeah, had some folks with them for the first time, wanted to show them the Heidelberg project. But they also came down there, they was gonna go out to dinner and they was gonna go to a play and so forth. So he took the cart back, got another cart, he came back.
Came back.
Came back and went to dinner and had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it.
I was just going to say that we have transformative experiences on Heidelberg like that all the time. All the time. And that's another reason why we can't stop. Because we're seeing how the Heidelberg Project reaches to so many different countries, people, situations, circumstances. I mean, we've actually had a rabbi talking to a prostitute. I kid you not.
What did they say?
Well, I don't know. It's a big conversation. But I do think that it was amazing that she felt comfortable on that street to talk to him, and he felt comfortable to listen.
Now, I'm taking some students with me to Amsterdam and to Berlin in May. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is trying to think about the ways that art can be used to, basically have difficult discussions, challenging discussions. And we had a discussion last night, the poor students, I'm so sorry, but we had a discussion last night. And I suggested that, we want to think about the ways that art might be useful to affirm or define the humanity in people that have, quote, been stigmatized, like prostitutes, sex workers, young people that might be on the school to prison pipeline. And so, when you were talking just a couple of minutes ago, Janine, about the fact that in that art space in Heidelberg, you had, the rabbi talking to the prostitute, and I was kind of wondering about, you said that she felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that in terms of, why does she feel comfortable in that space to have these kind of discussions? Why do you think?
I can only say that I think that people who live in the community are in awe that all people from all over the world come there.
Right.
But they're coming in their community. They're coming into a community that exists. And I think they feel comfortable having conversations with people walking up and down the street. I can't think of anything more, I can't say. I don't know.
What is the experience of Heidelberg, as an art community, as a work of art? Because I saw that in some of your signs, that were kind of posted on a Heidelberg project up and down the street, that, in a lot of ways, this neighborhood is now a protected work of art.
Right. Yeah.
Well, how did that happen, number one? And do you think that what do you think is kind of either magical or interesting or compelling about the fact that that art space invites people of difference to have hard discussions? I mean, how come people appear to have hard discussions in art spaces like Heidelberg? Why do you think?
Well, you give people a reason to come. And once you get them there, then you can have those conversations. But you got to first get them there.
Mm-hmm. But what is it about that space? Because I can get folks here, in the auditorium who will have that same kind of discussion.
It's a jaw-dropping experience for everybody who comes. Everybody's on the same level when you come to Heidelberg Street, because everybody's going. Everybody's looking like, what the? I think that's what opens the door. It's a equal ground for everybody that comes. Nobody's any different because everybody's looking at what this, experience is.
And so when they're asking what the answer is, because they're looking and saying, what is this?
Yeah.
And they're looking for an answer. And what would you say? We kind of talked about that in terms of there's an answer. Well, what is this?
Well, there's no big eyes and little U's. We're all the same. I want to go back to what I said earlier. It's only one race of people. That's the human race. And you get people to realize that. And so you get them to come. I also mentioned that I grew up on Heidelberg Street. It's very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
So you get people to understand that we are all in this together. We are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
No big eyes and little U's.
It's so funny.
It's identification too. People from all over can find something on Heidelberg that they can identify with. It could be an old baby doll. It could be a stroll. It could be in many, many things. That's equal ground as well.
So there's something about Heidelberg that creates lots of opportunities for level spaces, equalizing spaces.
I think it's an equalizer itself.
And I also think the word that I'm sitting here thinking about, it's magic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It might appear so, because, we did have Summer Flurry in 1997, and it blew the whole roof off of Farmer Jack, but the trees literally were bending on Heidelberg Street. I kid you not. We saw this. And car hoods could have been flying through people's windows. Nothing was moved. That was amazing. And we've got many stories like that.
Interesting.
isn't it?
You know, you were talking a couple of days ago about this other experience with this young lady. And I forget the details, but I know that it involved a mirror that was on the side of one of the houses, okay? And that was that was another kind of a deeper discussion, another deep discussion that we had in terms of, you know, your observation, which I thought was real interesting, that is the city fixed? Is it not fixed? Are you fixed? You know, we were talking about before in terms of that real interesting kind of provocative commentary you had about the state, you know, the situation in Detroit. And you kind of boil it down with that example of the one young lady, and you had a discussion with her. You remember that?
Absolutely.
Okay, could you kind of talk about it a little bit again?
Once again, we had some folks that came to visit the project,
right,
and got into this conversation, and she talked about coming, being part, wanting to help to fix the city. And I asked this question. I wanted to know from her, are you fixed? And then she had to, and she said, let me think about that. And so on the side of the house with all the dots on it, I have a mirror that's on this house. And I took over to look inside the mirror, and I said to her, what do you see? And she said, I see myself. Then I asked that question again, are you fixed? I think the way to fix the world is to fix self. Once you find self, then you can fix the world. But you got to find self first. Once you find yourself, then the whole world is yours. See, today I sit here, I am comfortable being Tyree. You know why? Because I found Tyree.
So this young lady came in with the intent to do what she could to change the city. And it was like, before you can do that, are you fixed?
Absolutely.
And that's, I do get that analogy, or that, yeah, maybe that analogy, because I think that what's happening in Detroit right now is that people see it as a blank canvas to come in and just set up shop without regard for the people that are there or the work that's already been done. That is a way that I can see that people are comfortable in their comfort zone. They bring their comfort people with them, and they have their comfort space, and you're not always welcome, but you live here. You've lived here.
Right.
So we got those things that I think are kind of things that when Tyree asked her that question, I could see. Are you okay? You know, or do you bring your baggage and create more baggage?
So their comfort can be their own baggage.
Sure.
That they're bringing in.
That's exactly what's happened in Detroit. The most segregated city in the country. Why? That is certainly not reflective on Heidelberg Street, and that's beautiful. And it's healthy.
It's very diverse. Real diverse. Now you also said something real interesting a couple of days ago about people who are coming in to the city. Okay? And some of those may be artists, some of those may be other people who want to come in and do what they want to do in the city, in terms of purchasing homes. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about, you know, what do you all see, you know, as the current ongoing role and task or place for Heidelberg with all of the changes. And some folks call it development, some folks call it regentrification, some folks call it artistic segregation. There's a lot of different things for what's happening there. But, you know, where does the Heidelberg project fit in this current state of flux in a lot of neighborhoods in Detroit?
Well, my personal thought and feeling about that is that Heidelberg is above the natural, development. I said it was a sacred battleground. I think it's an amazing space that is reflective of what Detroit has been through, and that it should continue to evolve as just that. And that's what it does, it evolves. That's what I think.
Larry, I think it's going to take all of that. All of it. Everything is everything. You need all of that. That's part of the magic. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. But once again, you got to know who you are. And what do you want to do? So it's okay. It's all good. Even bad is good. And too much good, like too much sex, is bad. In some cases.
I was going to ask you to explain that. Maybe not, or maybe a part, or maybe a part of that. Is it too much good and bad?
Too much of anything.
We were talking about it with Dr. Ray Silverman. We were talking about balance.
Balance.
And I recall this all the time. I study metaphysics, so I love this. In order to get light, you need negative and positive. You know what I'm saying? And in order to, the process of getting clothes cleaned in a washing machine is called agitating. You think about these things, or to get your shoes to shine, you beat and buff. So there's something to be said for accepting negativity as a natural part of the process. And when you can embrace it, then I think you can triumph and you can move beyond. I think that's what's happened with Tyree and Heidelberg. We accepted the fires. It was an unauthorized transformation.
Oh, I like that.
I wrote that in Huffington Post. Unauthorized.
An unauthorized transformation.
But Tyree's transformation was also unauthorized.
It was, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Well, when I think I know, it's kind of like, yep, another step. So, oh man, I got more learning now, huh? But that was also unauthorized.
Well, Socrates said that he was called the wisest man in the world. And he said, one thing I know for sure, I know nothing. So I'm still learning. Sure. I'm still learning. And I love it. I love it. I love the fact that I can kind of play with it now. 2 + 2 = 8.
You're kind of at that other point where you can be an expert learner, and where you kind of identify, well, I don't know, but it's a different kind of, it's a different level.
Yes.
Than it was for you, like maybe 25 or 30 years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say this to Larry, I think it's important. I want you to know that as I sit here today having this conversation, I don't know it all. I don't know it all. And I'm still learning. And I love the fact that I don't know it all. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. But I'm excited about the now, right now.
There are so many generations of younger folks who look up or look out. And I mean, almost all of them want some kind of advice or guidance, from Tyree, from the business aspects, some of the other things about, okay, well, we all can't be artists, so even in the support of artists. And so, when I kind of walk into the Heidelberg space, on Watson there, I always get excited when I see, Generation X and Y and probably Z in a few years, in that learning how to do the work. I mean, given all the situations, all the challenges that you are facing with, and that you've always faced with the Heidelberg project, when somebody young comes in and says, well, I want to do something like this too, can you advise me? What do you say?
Go do it. It's very simple. Just go and do it. I think a lot of times we wait for someone to give us permission. There is a secret to the madness that I create. I don't have a problem going back and apologizing later. I go and do it first. And that's what I say to young people. Go do it.
But they also, that's who, the young people is who we represent and who we think are the future. And I think we're trying to mentor and share with them. All of the staff of Heidelberg is mixed, but none of them are afraid to go to Heidelberg Street. Consequently, they're not afraid to go to other places. Now, there's a story about a shaman, and he asked the question. He says, I'm thinking of moving into the neighborhood. What can you tell me? And he says, he's going to the shaman says, well, what kind of people came from where you were? And he said, they were all nice and kind and blah, blah, blah. He said, well, that's exactly what you'll find here. And so the next person asked the shaman the same question. He says, what kind of people were where you came from? And he said they were mean and nasty. He said, well, that's exactly what you'll find here. See, you'll find what you go looking for. If you carry fear to the Heidelberg Project or to any place anywhere, that's what you'll find, I think.
Something else. Oh, you can do the applause if you like. Okay. And sometimes you let people think, all right? So, and a lot of these, comments is like, okay, you need to think about this for a little bit. Going a little bit forward, though, too, I think that's something else that is interesting to know, for me to kind of keep remembering, and I don't know how easy it is for you to get the word out, is that Heidelberg is not off by itself, over on that part of the Lower East Side of Detroit, okay? I mean, in point of fact, you engage with a lot of other programs and projects, and you have for a number of years. So, I know about one of them, which is really, really, really exciting, the work with the Bog School.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if you would talk a little bit about that, and then some of the other projects, that you have been involved in, because you've always been involved in projects all over the city. So it's never just been about you, just Heidelberg alone, and leave us alone. You've always done the outreach. So could you talk a little bit about the Bog Center work that you're doing with the Bog School? I'm sorry, the Bog School, different than the Bog Center. So the Bog School first, and then anything, any other projects that are kind of happening now that you're really excited about.
Well, Larry, I'm really excited about this project that's going to take place at the Bach School. But as I'm sitting here listening to you, and I want to kind of share this with you, and there's another quote, and it's coming from Albert Einstein. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Teaching young people to use their imagination. That's what I'm going to do over at the Bach School. Working with these young kids, we're going to take a house that's in the neighborhood. We're going to transfer that house, and we're going to paint stars all over this house.
Stars all over the house?
All over the house. The stars are a reflection of those young people. Every one of those young people are stars. And my job is to help them to understand and to see it, your star. Like I'm sitting here looking at the folk here in this audience. We're all stars. And so my job is to go in there and to say to these young kids, we can't wait on government, but giving them the power and helping them to believe in themselves to the point that we can transform this house, using this house as a metaphor to talk about these young, beautiful kids, little stars, preparing them to go into this beautiful world to do what they need to do.
What else do you do with the house? So it's the stars on the outside of the house.
We're just going to cover it with stars. And so when the kids are walking by and seeing these stars all over the house and people coming in, it's taking something that is negative, flipping it, and making it something very positive.
So it's an abandoned structure.
Yes.
Next to the school. And the idea is to transform it, to give the to make that impression on the kids. So it's a way to deal with that element in the community.
So it might not end with stars, but it's going to start out with the stars.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be completely covered with stars. Yeah. Every one of those kids are stars. Every one of them. And I want them to know that.
So, you asked. We traveled a lot. We were in Bochum, Germany, because, and I want the audience to hear this, I think it's interesting, because they have the Opel plants, General Motors, that were closing in 4 different countries. And so they brought together they were bringing together this big kind of a convention. And they invited Tyree and me to come and to be the keynote speaker. And the interesting thing about this, they called this conference, We Are Not Detroit. Because their principle was, we are not going to let happen to us what happened to Detroit. And I got to tell you that when we went there and we shared with them what our philosophy is and what we are doing, in the end, we helped them to understand that we are all Detroit. Do you know what I'm saying? That concept that we're not Detroit, they're trying to ward off, but they can't stop what's happening. I'm just saying that, what's happening in Detroit is a microcosm for what's happening in the rest of the world. Yeah.
And so from that perspective, in terms of what you think is happening in Detroit, what do you think is happening? This transformation, this, basically people having the ownership to change, municipalities kind of, going in and going out. I mean, we talked a couple of days ago, about my kind of interesting observation. Detroit has gone through a little bit of emergency management, y'all, in case, so there has been that, and, people have wrote large articles about, the abrogation of, the elected officials, et cetera, et cetera. Very, very powerful kinds of stories. And I think I might have shared with you that, in my work in a lot of the neighborhoods in the city, when I go and ask them, okay, folks, this really upsets you, right? That you've got this appointed EM that basically has abrogated and nullified the power of the city council, no unions, no contracts, and how does that affect you? And, my observation was really surprising in a lot of neighborhoods where they said, well, our schools are open, The schools aren't much, but they're open, okay? The lights come on at night, and some of them are broken, but they come on at night. The garbage pickup, yeah, okay, but the garbage pickup does happen on some kind of regular basis. The stores are open. For all intents and purposes, which was one of those, oh, you can't say that, but for all intents and purposes, not a whole lot changed in a lot of neighborhoods while the city was being restructured and being put into a controlled bankruptcy. And that was, for me, kind of eerie because, there was a kind of progressive that said, we must, really kind of tell people, wake up and take your blinders off. Don't you see what happened? And I think the response that I was gotten to get was, we know what happened. Didn't matter. We still had to move forward and do what we could in our own local neighborhood, in our own space. And so it's kind of one of those, okay, so what happened? I mean, these were realities, but they didn't hit the local day-to-day reality of these individuals. So from their perspective, nothing happened.
Well, that's why we have a Heidelberg project. And you have to fix the people. And government can't fix you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to fix you. You have to come to the realization of knowing that you have to do it for yourself. That's why I created the Heidelberg project.
Okay.
And I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about government, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Government, it's needed. So you need all of it.
Fair enough.
But you have to fix yourself. You have to do it.
But see, people don't know how to do that.
That's
They
what I
are
was going to wonder
susceptible.
about.
They are susceptible to the conditions that they live in. So how does Heidelberg help fix? I mean, what do you think? Tell me.
Well, what I'm seeing here, Janae, you have to get people to start thinking for themselves.
That's what I want you to get to, because that's what's critical.
Dr. Rudolf
Yeah.
Steiner said that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to become a free thinker. In his book, The Philosophy of Freedom, you got to learn and you got to trust self. Government can't do it for you.
How do you get people to do that,
Right.
though?
They
Okay, I
don't
mean,
have the tools.
day in, day out, beat down or doing the survival piece, they don't have the tools, and so, what is it about, the Heidelberg Project that allows people to kind of think about free? And can you replicate Heidelberg in other, you got 50 some odd neighborhoods in the city, right? So are you saying, well, every neighborhood has to have their own Heidelberg? What's the thought response there? So number one, how does Heidelberg, allow people, provide people the opportunity to get tools, to engage in the work that they need to do? And then what kind of solution is that in terms of the other neighborhoods in the city?
That's true.
Well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to repeat it again. You have to change people's paradigms. That's why you have these young folks here,
Mm-hmm.
and they go into schools, work with the young kids, and that's why tour groups come over to visit the project, and it gives us a chance to talk with them and to share with them the importance of changing your own paradigm, not waiting. I think the problem has been that we've been waiting. Tradition and convention is something of the past today. You got to think in a new way. That's what that's why I created the Heidelberg Project. It's my way of saying, once again, I'm going to repeat it, 2 + 2 = 8.
But how did you think in a different way? See, you telling us all about how you are thinking, how you're wired, but how do other people get wired like that?
Well, it was Grandpa Sam Mackey, my grandfather, who gave me a paintbrush at the age of 9 and said to me that he could see the wind blow.
That's still your grandfather and your paintbrush.
And that's why we have the Heidelberg Project. So now you get people to come there and they see this
Sharing
project.
that message.
I'm sharing the message.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking something that's broken and you're putting your own spin on it. And you're fixing it in your own unique way. And saying, here, world, if I did it, you can do it too. But I think a lot of times what stops people from thinking for themselves is fear. We get afraid of change. Because change comes with a price.
What's the price?
Oh, the price is very painful at times.
It's pain. We know about change.
Change.
Yeah, the whole change is painful.
Yes.
You go and you send a message out to the young people, and I've noticed, kind of time and time again, that, the solution that, you work with the kids, you work with the young people. And do you do anything to educate, the caring adults or the adult allies? Because, it's one thing and it's really positive to begin with young minds, and to create stars. So, with the kids that are at the Bog School, it's one thing to work with the kids and say, you are stars. what do you say, what do you kind of advise the adults? You know, so whom it may be the parents or the caregivers, sometimes the teachers. What did they learn?
I'm going to give you a perfect example. You know, Janine, we were sitting here earlier, was talking about the fires. We had a series of fires.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been saying to the media, I don't want to say anything bad. I want to set love up. That's how you do it. Love. The person that's been setting this project on fire. I want to do something a little bit different by sending out love. And that's how you educate people, I believe. You send love and you give them hope. You help them to start believing in themselves.
So even to this person who set the fires,
Hallelujah.
was sent out a message of love?
Hallelujah.
Could we kick their ass a little bit first, though?
Yeah, that's where I am now.
Okay.
Just want to let you know.
Well, you guys do that.
Okay, but then
You guys
will.
do that,
Okay.
and I'm going to love them, okay? You do that. And I'm going to kick their ass by loving them.
That might even be more painful.
Hallelujah.
All right. Okay, that's really interesting.
Parents do come to Heidelberg.
Do they?
Parents of children who visited the Heidelberg Project often come on the bus. And that's schools from all over.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do get an education. And a lot of children that we have educated in the community have drugged their parents, so to speak, to the Heidelberg. And the parent is, I don't know why my kid is so excited about this or that. So a lot of the education can come through the kids. I just wanted to be clear.
Should there be more Heidelbergs in Detroit? Because a lot of this seems to be very, very powerful. You have the sacred battleground, and this in Heidelberg in this one neighborhood, right? So what's the kind of I don't want to say a solution, that's premature, but what's the kind of a response? Would you encourage more folks to come to Heidelberg and see? Would you talk about the importance of growing more kinds of art, community responses in other neighborhoods? What would you say if someone said, "Well, God, I want to do the Heidelberg in my neighborhood, or I want to do something"? How would you respond to that?
That's happening.
I don't think that Heidelberg belongs in another neighborhood personally.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Heidelberg belongs where it is. And I also think Heidelberg is a personality. And I don't think Heidelberg would be the same if Tyree were not continuing to be here. So I think that what we can do is take the principles of what we have learned and what we have done in a community, box it up, put it in a book, or put it in a film or something like that, and help people to understand what we've been through, what we've done, and they can learn from that. Certainly if they want to, they can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you see the solution at the neighborhood level then?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. Excuse me.
Kay, do you want to do questions?
Sure.
Past 3 people.
Oh,
Well, wait. Do you want to do questions?
Whatever.
do you have questions?
Okay. Okay. I know you all would like questions. Are we good with that?
I'm wonderful. Absolutely.
Questions? Okay. I think we have roving mics too. Yeah, we've got the roving mics. Okay, but you're okay with it, right?
I'm loving it. Yeah, absolutely.
I
Fine. Great. Excellent.
have a comment.
Can you raise?
Marty and
Oh,
Irv.
I've known Tyree and Janine, seems like forever, at least 25 or 30 years. Whenever I visited the Heidelberg Project, they took us on a tour. It was wonderful. They often visited our house, and Tyree always brought a piece of art, and my house is filled with his art, of which I am very proud. One is a car hood, hand-painted with polka dots. I believe that their projects are highly worthy of your support. Thank you.
Hi, Tyree and Janine. It's Carol. My question to you is, Tyree, what are you making on the street right now? What's in your heart right now on Heidelberg Street?
I started a whole series, a body of clocks, and I've been asking that question, what time is it? And so that's my latest project. I decided to put clocks all over the project, all over the project. What time is it?
And you have a cigarette on one of the cloths there. There's a kind of a cool significance with the cigarette over there. What's that? What's that?
No, I'm going to take a cigarette break after this is over.
Wonderfully symbolic.
So I'd like to ask about the rumors about going to Berlin with some Detroit techno artists and you know, what that's all about.
That's got some truth to it, and so we're just kind of waiting. We're waiting. Our legal person's kind of working on that for us, so that's got some truth to it.
Let me elaborate for you though, that we do, the techno artists, Carl Craig and Derek May, these older gentlemen, they got a lot of their energy from Heidelberg, so they were kids hanging out on Heidelberg Street. Is that right, Dan?
That's absolutely right.
So, you know, you just see how that whole new genre of music came out of being on Heidelberg Street. I think that's phenomenal.
And I kind of want to add to that. When Derek May and I first got started, Derek and Carl Craig would all come over and hang out and just watch, and I would go up there painting, and yeah, so we go way back.
Didn't they also invite MTV International out the first time as well?
Yes.
How is the Heidelberg project funded? How do you buy the houses? Who pays for your paint? And how do you keep going?
Well, we're 501c3, so we have written grants and have been successful with Kresge, and the Earth Family Foundation is our biggest funder. Community Foundation of Southeastern Michigan. We only received that funding in the last 7 years though. So prior to that, we existed on a shoestring and sales from Tyree's work. But as we go forward now, we're gonna have to dig deeper because we're out of money because of the fires, and I'm being honest. And so we are now looking for new supporters and renewing the ones that we currently have. But we need people to know, we have to educate, and that's part of what we're doing here now. The work must continue. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's a hand way in the back there.
I have some.
Awesome.
I really liked the video at the start, and I loved your Heidelberg television set. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Wow. Someone came over one day, it was right around the time they was having the fires, and somebody came by and dropped off a giant screen television set. Yeah, they dropped it off maliciously. And so I remember sharing with Janine, I said, somebody came over and, damn, they dropped off this television set in the middle of the street, and I'm dealing with these fires. And so I left this television set out there for 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Sunday I came back and I had this epiphany. And I heard it. Clean it up and create Heidelberg television. And I think
the real reality show.
And I think what you guys saw up here was the baby doll show. And so I took what someone called themselves creating this malicious act, and I decided to put my own personal spin on it and create the Heidelberg television show. So when I get people from all over the world to come to visit us, I say to them, go back there and create a television show for me. And that's how it started, Heidelberg television.
And it's on its way to Spelman in March.
Yeah, we have a question over here.
Tyree, I've visited this project for many years, pretty much since your inception. I was born and raised in Detroit, and I live here in Ann Arbor now. But a lot of the things that have happened in Detroit, I get the feeling from people that they don't want outsiders to help. And what I've loved about your project is embracing people from all over the world to come and to help. So my question is, how does an outsider, somebody who doesn't live in Detroit, come and make a meaningful and helpful contribution other than money to help you on Heidelberg Street? So if somebody from here, for example, wanted to roll up their sleeves and come down and help you do your installation, do cleanup, do rearrangement, how does one do that? Is that something that you embrace and welcome?
Absolutely. And Janine just whispered in my ear. I'm going to give you an example of that. There's a gentleman right here by the name of Mark. This gentleman right here. Yeah, this guy. This guy, he's like a bumblebee. He's been coming down there and doing the fires. Mark has been helping us to clean up. And so I'm going to say to you, absolutely. It's going to take all of us working together collectively to change the world. I think that's over, you know, where we're living and separately. It's going to take all of us. So anytime you want to come down and get dirty, I'd love to have you.
Okay. We have a internet or a volunteer sign up on our website as well. Just, you know, whenever you want to come down, just, yeah.
Let's take one more question.
And one back here.
Hi, Tyree, I wanted to ask if you've always loved the way you love, or if you came to it, and if so, if you'd be willing to talk a little bit about how you came into the way you love.
A time. I mentioned that we've been around for 29 years. Next year it'll be 30 years, and I'm 26. Time has a way of changing you. You make some mistakes along the way, and all I know, as I sit here today, I see the importance of sending off love into the world now. But time, that clock there, time, all things in time. And for me, this is the time to love. Time.
For those of you who can stay, we'd like to invite you to join us in the assembly hall through the exit sign up there and visit with with Tyree, Janine, and Larry for longer. Let's thank them for their presentation.